Welcome to your Season 15 Blaseball weather update. This is the late season forecast. Warning: this video contains forbidden knowledge. Stop watching now if you do not wish to access hidden information. This video would not have been possible without the work of the Society for Internet Blaseball Research. As we move into the late season, it will be no surprise that there is still a league-wide flood warning in effect, whilst we hope that the salmon don't tear another rift in space-time. Hawaii sees an equal chance of flooding and peanuts. The islands will only be hosting 6 home games, so blood rain and salmon are the only other weathers. Mexico City has a high chance of flooding, but will also have the most incidences of black hole in the late season. In Miami, we see that flooding is once again the leading weather. Coffee, feedback and reverb will also be seen, but in smaller doses. Seattle looks forward to huge amounts of flooding, with plenty of salmon also moving through. Sun 2, birds and feedback are occurring too. We will be issuing a flood warning for San Francisco, which will also see the highest amounts of Coffee 2 in the late season, meaning their stadium renovation plan is working. Down in Los Angeles, they will only be hosting 3 home games, so we will see 2 in flooding and 1 in Coffee 3s. Charleston will again have the highest amount of flooding in the Midwest. Salmon and Sun 2 will make repeat appearances for the shoe thieves. Yellowstone has an equal chance of salmon and flooding, with the joint highest showing of salmon in the late season. Peanuts is the only other repeat weather for the national park. The Hellmouth has a large chance of flooding, but will also be seeing salmon, feedback, peanuts and coffee too, so there will be a bit of variety for fans. Across in Breckenridge, where the highest chance is flooding, but with an almost equal amount of salmon, there will be blood rain, peanuts and birds in the area. There will be lots of flooding in Canada, along with many of the other weathers. The only ones that won't be seen are solar eclipse, blood rain, Coffee 2, Coffee 3s and reverb. Dallas has an equal chance of salmon and flooding down in Texas. They're hosting only 6 home games, so solar eclipse and Sun 2 cover the remaining matches. In Houston, the biggest chance is of flooding, with 1/3 of games in that weather. Reports say that salmon and feedback both pass through the area more than once. The Crows come home to roost in Kansas City, where they will see the highest chance of birds in the ILB. The city will also see flooding, reverb and salmon. Chicago has extremely high flooding, as well as the highest incidence of Coffee 3s in the late season. Sun 2, feedback and salmon will also see some games. There is a large chance of flooding in Ohio. The Worms will see 3 games each of salmon and Sun 2, giving the most Sun 2 games seen across the league. Now in core, flooding is the highest chance, whilst only salmon makes a repeat appearance. Boston has 1/3 of games in flooding weather this late season. Reverb will be seen twice, but all the other games have different weathers. Philadelphia's highest risk will be flooding, and reverb is the only other return weather. Salmon is most likely in New York, boasting the joint highest influx in the ILB. Peanuts and flooding are also likely. Baltimore sees an equal chance of salmon and flooding. Coffee and reverb pass through twice each, making the East Coast quite reverb heavy in the end portion of the series. Tokyo will be very damp, with the highest amount of flooding seen in the late season. Feedback, peanuts and salmon are the only other weathers that will be seen across 21 games. We move down to Hell, where flooding is most likely, with 1/3 of games played in that weather. This is one of only 5 places to see a solar eclipse or Coffee 2 during the late season. Atlantis has the highest incidence of reverb in the ILB, but will still see more flooding than that. Sun 2 will be making a repeat appearance. 40% of games in the late season will be played in flooding weather. So much for ownership's talk of getting it under control. Once again, there will only be 5 solar eclipses, which is good news on the incineration front. But Blood Rain, Coffee 2 and Coffee 3s are all equally low. I'll be back with your Season 16 forecast next week, but until then, rejoice, play ball.